Right now, we're living in a world where information has never been more available. AI can write your marketing plans, it can build your funnels, it can write your ads, it can generate content. But no one is really talking about this. If everyone has access to the same information, what actually separates the businesses that succeed from the ones that struggle? Hey, welcome to today's episode of Business Growth Lab. I'm your co host, Samantha Riley. Leon, thanks for joining me again.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for inviting me back.
That sounds kind of weird because we're business partners.
Well, true, true.
I was going to say last week's episode, but it wasn't last week's episode. The week before, episode 679 was the last episode that you and I recorded together. And I think it's one of, not the highest number of people reach out, but it's definitely really right up there with the amount of people that reached out. And it really struck a chord with them, which was super interesting, right? We were talking about AI and talking about an event we'd been at and sort of unpacking what business is like. And I cried. A lot of people reached out about that too. I'll try not to lose my shit this episode. But it was so lovely to have so many people reaching out, wasn't
Yeah, yeah. I think some of them may have been actually crying with you. So, it's
it?
very emotional.
Probably was too. It's really not. I just say it was for everyone that reached out. Thank you so much because it really does feel like sometimes that you're just really talking at a screen and you forget that. Well, you don't forget, but it's nice to know that people, you that are listening, actually is listening. Like you see the numbers on a screen, logically you know it, but it's just sometimes it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because we're just speaking at a screen and I don't know. Sometimes you kind of don't. How do I even say it? I'm like, I think everyone knows what I'm trying to say because most people create content.
Yeah, it feels like no one's actually there. But if you actually look at the analytics and the data of how many people are there, if you put all those people into a room in front of you, it'd
Hmm.
be pretty full on. It'd be crazy, like how many people you're actually talking to. So, not to make you feel nervous or anything like that, but
Absolutely. And shout out to the 85% of our listeners who are in the US. Thank you for listening to us. Obviously, our accent isn't putting you off.
And I'm sure I talk too fast, but sorry.
Oh, I don't think, like I said, 85% of our listeners are Americans, so they must be able to get something out of it. Now, one of the things that we talked about last episode was that we had been chatting to someone that was on our mastermind table. And after our mastermind, I just casually mentioned that I'd been in business for 32 years. And he was like, oh my God, what? Hey, why didn't you say that earlier? And, at the time I was like, oh, bit awkward kind of leading with that. Like that's sort of a big head thing. And that's where the last episode that we recorded came from because it was like, oh my God, like no, like we want to lean into that experience. And I guess we've reflected on that a lot in the last couple of weeks because that response from him just really opened up such a massive conversation with us, right, Leon? Like it really stuck with us. It opened up a whole new pathway of thoughts because when he's like, oh, people need to know that it's really, really important because there's lots of people teaching business who haven't lived through the cycles. And I think that was sort of the gold there because we're seeing obviously this massive rise of AI, and AI can give us the answers, but there's something that you and I can see that AI still is not able to bring out. And that we can get all of that information from AI, but it can't replicate experience. And, you know, between the two of us, we've been in business for more than 60 years, me in small business and running multiple 6 and 7 figure businesses. Like I've grown up all of them from the ground up. I sold some of them. We still have some of them. You've been in corporate, and I think that, a lot of people don't put the two and two together of, there's a lot of things that I don't know that you do in corporate that you're able to bring to the table too. And when you put the corporate experience and running billion-dollar accounts and how teams work and how systems work in corporate and put it together with the very speedy movement of small business, and you have to be speedy. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But when you put both of those together, it means that we have a lot of perspective. We've seen a lot of cycles, a lot of, technology starting, different changes, different pivots, different economic cycles. We've seen what works, we've seen what breaks, we've seen strategies that work. We've seen those same strategies absolutely fall and break because they're, being fatigued.
Can I say we've broken
So,
stuff ourselves?
okay. Right? So, thinking about that and the time that we're in right now, why do you think that experience is becoming more valuable again right now?
Yeah. So there's a whole number of things here, and my brain's going all over the place at the moment. Think about what we've just talked about.
Yeah.
The first thing is I don't know why we don't talk more about our experience and how much we have of it. And I feel that myself, if I have a mentor, I want them to have gone through and been where we're going.
Yes.
So I feel like that's something I feel that makes right or wrong. I feel that makes them a better mentor. And I think as we go through the episode, we'll probably break it down a bit further as well.
Yeah, yeah. PS, really, do you really think it's a right or wrong thing? Like,
No, I'm pretty damn
imagine
sure.
learning from someone that has never done what they're trying to teach.
So having a mentor that, to me anyway, I think it's important that they've actually been where I'm going or
Mhm.
along the same journey line that I'm going on. I think that's really important. So that's one thing. When it cuts back to things like AI and what you're talking about and what we just spoken about just now, I feel you can get the information, but I'm also not so sure that you can get the right information if that makes sense. And I'll say if it
Well,
makes sense.
yeah, it does make sense because there's a lot that I use, let's say ChatGPT or Manus or Gemini or whatever I'm using, and we do use them all, Claude, and I ideate with them a lot. Like I run ideas past them a lot. And it's amazing how many of those conversations I go, "Oh, well, that's not actually right." And I'll correct it and I'll say, "Well, this is the way I see it," and or this is what I found, or I don't think that's true. Now, let me just say I do know that AI is primed to always like make you right. Like so I'll put that in air quotes. However, at the same time, what it's giving me back is I guess stuff that other people have plugged in there. Well, with all of my experience, I go, mm-mm, no, that's not right. And I will like really go deep with it and say, but this is what I'm seeing, or actually I've seen this cycle before and did it. And that where this is really interesting is that people say, but I can get all the answers from AI. But how do you know if the answers are true or correct or right or however you want to say it? I think that you still need experience and your own lived knowledge to realize that some of the stuff you get back is BS because
Yeah.
AI doesn't have judgment.
Yeah, well, it doesn't. So I think there's actually quite a few layers to this issue as well, because the very first one is what's the question you're asking? And
Yeah,
I
right.
know that between the two of us, now you are a very good question asker. And what you
Thank you.
get and what I get is completely different. We're
Yeah.
asking the same damn question.
Well,
Probably
yeah,
me.
kind of the
Well,
same. We're
so we're
trying to
asking the
ask the
same
same
thing, but not
question.
the same question. Yeah, it's not the same question. We're
Yeah.
asking the same thing. So we're trying to find the answer to a particular problem. And then the way you ask the question, the way I ask the question is completely different. And it actually brings up a completely different answer. And now the next part is, do you know that what it's brought up is actually in line with what you're asking? Is it
Mm.
legit?
Hmm.
Or did it absolutely just lie to you as well, outright lie and make things up? I've also found that from my point of view, that it has lied, it has like missed pieces as well, where I go
Yeah.
back and go, yeah, but what about this? Only because of my experience that I know about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about it, wouldn't know to ask. and would have just gone on my merry way and not even realized. So
Yep.
I think there's different levels to it. So there's knowing what's asked in the first place, and then there's the did it spit out something that was actually going to work? Was it
Yeah.
useful?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So, what I want to talk about is some of the things that we've picked up that I guess AI isn't necessarily picking up right now. No, what we're specifically talking about here is like the language models. Like I said, ChatGPT, Manus, Claude, Gemini, and there's a gazillion more. We're not talking about Claudebot. I'm actually not sure which one it is. I've heard
Yeah.
it's both. I'm not talking about all of that, and we will start to cover that in some of the upcoming episodes. But today, this is all we're talking about. And these are some of the things or some of the cycles that we're seeing, Leon, that are not popping up in these language models, because we've got to remember that the information that's being spat out is based on the information that has been input. And some of this information isn't quite right yet, or it hasn't been input or
Yeah.
picked up. And this is what we're seeing. So I definitely want to talk about it. And that first is, I guess, markets overheating, because every industry goes through phases. Like, that every industry has, peaks and troughs. If I think about it, the first one pops to mind is McDonald's. That was my first job. And when I worked there in the, really like very late 80s, early 90s is kind of when I was there. They were all of us McDonald's people say they're the good old days. They're the days where,
Yeah.
I remember where our McDonald's was, and it was like in the bottom car park of one of Adelaide's biggest Westfield shopping centres, and the O-Bahn opened up, which was one of the big bus interchanges. And the O-Bahn was a huge thing in Adelaide opening, because it was I think Germany's the only other place in the world that's got an O-Bahn, which is actually buses that drive on a track like a train, and then they can come off the track and drive onto the road. And it meant that the commute from the city, from sort of where we were into the city, went from, like 40 minutes down to, oh gosh, don't quote me on this, but like 10 or 15 minutes. And it was super cool. Everyone wanted to go on the O-Bahn. And the day that had its official opening was the biggest day that our particular McDonald's store had done, sorry. And the lines across all the registers across the front counter went all the way back to like the bins. Sort of where you put all your rubbish after you've eaten.
Which is almost the door
And
on the way out, pretty much.
that's exactly right, and it was like that all day. Like, we did our that was I don't think we ever broke those records in that store, and that store's still there, but we broke the hourly records, we broke the day record, we broke the night record. Like, it was such an exciting day to be there. All of the workers were on such a high, because there was just queues and queues and queues of people all day. It was the best. I can still remember it now. As a generator and someone that loves working, like, I can viscerally feel how cool that day was. And, here I am talking about it, I don't know how many years later. I can't do maths. A lot of years later. It's still exciting, and there are still some of those people that I used to work with, and we actually still talk about those days. It was cool, right? That is McDonald's at its peak, because if you walk into a McDonald's store now, it's not like that at all. Like, there'll be people in the store, but it's not queues of people. It's just got a different vibe in there. I think people are a lot more. I could be wrong here. Maybe it's just the people that we hang around, but I think that people are more like health focused now. They know that, McDonald's isn't really the way to go. So that's a market at its peak and at its trough, right? I think McDonald's has gone through a phase, and I don't think it'll ever get back to that phase. Again, could be wrong, but so at first there's opportunity and growth and hype, and when hype takes over, the market overheats. So some of the signs that a market is overheating that we can see more in the coaching, consulting, and the service-based industries, one of the things that we might start to notice is that too many people are selling the same thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've certainly seen that in the coaching space. And what happens when a lot of people come in is people's messaging starts to become identical. They're all doing, or they're all sort of promising the same thing, they're using the same language, the same hooks. And the only way to get ahead is to exaggerate things. So we're going to get you these bigger results in this shorter time. You're going to earn, 7 figures in the next 10 seconds. Income claims get a bit ridiculous. Overnight success stories sort of come onto the stage, and so it yeah, it overheats.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and then, what happened? Because people exaggerate things to stand out, audiences become skeptical, trust drops, buyers hesitate, and that's kind of what we're seeing now, right? This we've spoken about it a lot in the last few episodes, the trust deficit, and that's exactly what's happening in the coaching industry. And it's not just the coaching industry it happens in. It happens in lots of industries, but we've definitely seen it in the coaching industry.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say, just quickly back to Macca's. I
Yeah.
remember that time when Macca's first came out, and we had the first one in New South Wales. I don't know where it was exactly, but it was near me anyway.
Okay.
And um, yeah, so I think at a time where people ate at home more, so
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then you had Macca's. And then remember you had like Burger King, Hungry
Yep.
Jack's, and the burgers were better apparently at Hungry Jack's.
The
It gets
burgers are
like
better at
that.
Hungry
Well,
Jack's.
well, so
Yeah.
this is like exactly what's happening in the coaching industry, right? Because they have this, here's the coaching course, mentorship, whatever you want to call it. And then someone else comes along and goes, but mine's better. I'll get you there faster, and I'll get you more money, and I'll get you 7 figures overnight. All
Yeah,
this kind of
yeah,
stuff. It's the same thing. And before you know it, the market's flooded. So then
yeah,
there's all these other different fast food joints, for example, with Macca's that were competing for a piece of the market. So it made it harder for Macca's as it went along. But same happens with the coaching industry. You can see it happening. It's like there's just so many more out there. The claims get bigger and gets crazier.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then they try and do more trendier things that make it more exciting. And it's similar to
Totally.
this. Now, if anyone's ever played Black Ops on PlayStation or
Which
whatever platform you're on,
isn't me, PS.
Sam doesn't do that.
I hate gaming.
Yeah, no, I used to play when my daughter was young. We used to play together on Black Ops 2, and we absolutely loved it. And it was a really fun game, super simple. It wasn't super high tech. And then as the games went on, they had to get better and better. All of a sudden, you had jetpacks bouncing off walls, this and that, crazy, weird guns, and it just got weirder and weirder and weirder. And it was just like, it just, but it lost its shine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens. And then some of the coaching things lose their shine because everyone's just talking, and it's not delivering. So,
Yeah, totally. And it's not just like we've talked then about, income claims. So we're specifically talking about business coaches. But I remember distinctly the day that someone told me they had a personal trainer. I'm like, you what? Are you a millionaire? Because can you remember, like back in the 80s, the only people that had personal trainers were,
a movie
um,
star.
they were Hollywood
Yeah.
stars, right?
Yeah.
That's the only people. And now most people have a trainer. Like I've had
Yeah.
a trainer for 20 years now. Even when I was a trainer, I had a trainer. I know most personal trainers don't have a trainer themselves. But I liked someone else just telling me what to do because I've always been someone that's quite happy to hand my decision fatigue to someone else. But, seen in the fitness industry, leadership coaches, same thing. I think leadership coaching is huge now compared to what it was 20 years ago. Gosh, we pulled some Instagram statistics for a webinar that we recently did, and looking at the number, like the percentage that leadership coaching has gone up, it is absolutely insane. It was one of the biggest growth numbers that we'd seen in all of
Yeah.
coaching.
Huge, huge.
So it's not just business coaching, it's fitness, it's wellness, it,
Yeah.
it's you know
Yeah.
it's
Can I say for a
lots.
sec, just quickly though, you are a trained PT
Yeah.
and amongst other things.
You know,
So there's lots of letters after your name.
there is.
But what I wanted to say was the value you get from having your own PT, even though you are a PT,
Yeah.
is quite interesting. Because you kind of go, well, why would a PT have their own PT? Aren't they good enough?
Mhm.
the
Well,
thing
I don't
is,
think many, yeah, because it's very,
yeah,
very
yeah,
rare for a
yeah,
trainer to train with someone else
yeah. And what's that saying you have? You can't read the label from
inside the
inside the
jar.
jar. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's, and I think it's what it is. So just if anyone's wondering why we have a PT when we are trained PT, well, Sam's a trained PT anyway. When you think about it from that point of view, if you want to be better and improve and always be improving, then that makes way more sense that you have someone that works with you because you can't see what's going on necessarily.
Good
So
point.
I think, yeah, I think, we're talking about, you want even more quality training and want to be getting better and better. And I think having that person on your side is a really good thing to have.
Yeah, I really like that you brought that up. I hadn't really thought about that because when I was a dance teacher, and that's where most of my letters come from, I actually have a lot of qualifications in teaching classical ballet. So I have a ton of letters after my name, which of course I don't use now because I don't teach ballet anymore. But I always did class. So I would teach 30 something hours a week. And I would also go to class because I was also always I was still doing exams, I was still going further. I was doing at one point when I was studying for one of my like sort of really high level exams, I was still dancing with a teacher who was the head in Australasia because I always wanted to be going to the best. I was still dancing with her 30 something hours a week. I was doing ballet for over 70 hours a week. That's insane. When I was a mum
Like
of 3
two
kids,
full-time
I was
jobs.
doing that and
Okay.
had
That's like
and
three
had 3
full-time jobs.
businesses. Oh
Did you
gosh.
ever sleep? Did you sleep?
Well, it is funny. It just I was in it and I knew I was tired and I knew I was busy, but I think I was so busy I didn't have time to think about how busy I was. And it was only just last week, funnily enough, that my daughter said, "I've always wanted to ask this, Mum, why did you do that much?" And I actually didn't think about it. I just did it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's the thing we
we
did.
totally
Yeah.
got off the track there.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I think it was important to talk about like we have like, a PT for PT, and then, we also have our own mentors
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So, and I think I think it's an important factor in, keeping moving forward. And it's almost like a mini mastermind, I suppose, even with the PT,
Yeah. Yeah.
having somebody you can bounce things off together to go even faster, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally, totally. So we've just talked about markets overheating, and then let's talk about what we're seeing right now is that I'm seeing a huge market correction. And what I mean by that is we've actually seen it especially over the last 12, 18 months, a lot of coaching businesses disappear. Like what I'm going to say, the weaker coaching businesses disappear. And what I mean by weaker is they were on the high of 2020 because that was a massive high for coaching businesses. And then they just couldn't sustain it, right? Because they didn't understand things at depth because it had been so easy over that time. So we've seen a lot of weaker businesses disappear. We're seeing even because the market is correcting, it's dropped below that sort of neutral line, and things are quite difficult right now from an economic standpoint, from an AI standpoint, from trust deficits. All of
Yeah,
these
that's a
things
big
are
one.
playing into it, right? And so right now, credibility becomes really, really important because that's the piece that's going to get you through. And what I think we're going to see, and we're seeing it now, and I think we're going to continue to see it, is that experience is going to become valuable again.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Yeah. I think, like you said, though, the things like the trust deficit right now
Hmm.
is huge,
Yeah,
and definitely experience is going to become more valuable,
yeah.
way more valuable.
As this correction is happening, I think it's really important. I just want to touch on this a little bit, and potentially we might do a whole episode about this if it's something people want to hear about. Let's talk about pivot. Now, in 2020, I was the one that was putting out content saying, "Oh my god, if I hear pivot one more time, I'm going to be ill." But in saying all of that, like we need to be moving fast right now. The world is moving fast. When we were at our mastermind a couple of weeks ago, and someone said to me, and this is someone that's in multi seven figures, said that they've slightly tweaked their messaging around 20 times in the past 4 months. There's a massive, like, let's shine a spotlight on what you really need to be paying attention to right now, because the old, like, stick to it and, like, really hold yourself, like, very, very in a straight line, and focus and da 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 da. Yes and no. There is an and. It's not one or the other. It's yes and. Like, you don't need to change massively what you're doing, and do a pivot from, a speaker coach to a painting coach, an artist coach. I don't know if there's such thing. I'm sure there is. Actually, there
Oh,
is.
it is.
My son
Yeah.
had one.
Oh, there you
What am
go.
I talking about? He used to go to art classes. But what I'm talking about is, and this is the way we describe our business, Leon, when we're in public a lot, is we almost use our business like a crash test dummy. The YouTube videos that you see, where people are testing out new cars, and they have the dummies in, and they throw the car into the wall, and you see how, what happens to the little yellow man with the little triangles all over him. That's what he looks like, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got on his head. He's got triangles. They're usually yellow, and they're like little.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, we use our business like that, right? It's how can we teach it if we haven't tried it? And I think this goes back to the personal training thing that we were talking about, because I remember when I signed up to do my personal trainer course, there was young guys in there that had never ever had a personal trainer. They'd never been trained by anyone. And I'm like, "Are you guys serious? Like, how can you do that? How can you train someone else when you haven't experienced it?" And this is exactly the same thing, and it's why we use our business like a crash test dummy. We're always trying new things. We're always trialing, because we want to know. Well, we do know out of the 10 things that we teach, we've probably tried 30 things, or 40
Yeah.
or 50 things to come
Yeah.
up with those things that we teach. It's like, because we put money on the line, we put time on the line, we put everything on the line to try it out. And I think that that's what's really, really important, and that's where you have to be. Like, it's no longer good enough to teach from do as I say, not as I do. It's not okay anymore.
Yeah. You just brought up something there that speaks to a lack of experience as well. That like the young guys, I don't think
Mm.
there's any girls in that class talking about
There was,
the
but
young guys.
funnily enough, we were all older.
Oh,
There
well,
was
there you
only, I
go.
think, 5 of us, and
Yeah.
I think we were all older.
Yeah. But that's a great example of the lack of experience and never having had a PT before, that the way they were going into it, unless they had someone like you to learn from, even though you were doing the course at the same time, um, they wouldn't have picked these things up, but they don't know what it's like. They don't know how to deal with their client well enough, or what they need to do, like how they need to come across. Like they haven't had the experience from the other side even, or had been able to watch someone with good experience to see what they should be doing. So that's a really good example of that. The other thing I just want to say now is that yes, crash test dummy, it all comes back to data. So
Yes.
probably the last 4 years particularly, and as we've gone through, like after 2020, whatever else, but as we've gone through closer to this point in time, the need for more data and more testing is sped up as everything else is sped up. So
Yeah.
we've had to test more,
Oh my goodness. Yes.
throw more spaghetti at the wall, or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
just to see what sticks, because you just need more data.
Yep.
Everything just gets going faster and faster and faster. So the amounts of data that you need to learn, because of the rate of the market moving, has to be a lot more. So we've been, yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot.
It is, and it's also because what did work 2 years ago doesn't work now. What did work 6 months ago doesn't work now.
So I think something I've been thinking about a lot lately as well, and we chat about this a bit, quite well, actually probably over the last couple of months we're talking about it as well, is that when things change fast, what do you need to be doing to kind of stay ahead of the curve a bit? So, what do the experienced people or experienced operators do? So how do they go about it? Because you've just talked about it before, do you sit and stay and like, you get the last few drops of a dying strategy out,
Mm.
and where does that lead you, if
Yeah.
anywhere at all?
And in all fairness, there's when a strategy dies, it doesn't suddenly tap you on the shoulder and go, "Hey, by the way, this strategy doesn't work anymore." Like
I'm a
this is
head
where the
out.
yeah, yeah, and I'm out. It doesn't do that. You need to pay attention. Like, don't be the
Yep.
person that says, "I'm just going to do this because this is what I've always done." And
Can we
oh my
say
goodness,
Kodak? Can we say
don't.
Kodak?
Oh my goodness, I can give you a million business names. Can we say Blockbuster? So don't be that person. It doesn't tell you you have this is why it's so important to pay attention to the data and to also like can I say this? Feel the feedback. Like sometimes
Mm.
you can just feel that it's not quite right. And yeah, so sorry, that was me on my soapbox. I'll get off for a second, give it back to you.
Well, no, so what I was just thinking was as well, and we talked about this quite often, is yeah, how to be the early adopter, I suppose you
Uh-huh.
would
Uh-huh.
say.
Uh-huh.
It's great if you can be the first person to do something, but even if you're not and you haven't got that idea, if you kind of keep an ear to the ground to work out what's going on, and you can be an early adopter to work out what you think is good, hence the pivoting a lot, and
Yep.
then adapt early. I think
Yes.
is a good way of going about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
not all of us are 100% ideas people, but entrepreneurial, we move fast.
Yeah.
So if you can adapt early, move fast, and keep moving. That's the testing.
100%. Well, look, that's the reason that we are focusing on different social media channels than we were 2 years ago or even 18 months ago because we saw shifts in the market, we saw the way that people were responding, we saw what was working and what wasn't. And I wasn't about to sit around and go, "Oh, I'll just keep doing what I've always done." Like that's ridiculous. It's just you're digging your own grave. You do need to notice and you do need to adapt. And that's what will keep businesses ahead of the curve because yeah, otherwise we'll just get left behind.
Yeah, yeah. And so and I think as well, you need to think about things like, your offer may have been relevant 6 to 12 months ago,
Mhm.
but with AI and what that's done for having more knowledge or information, I should say information, not knowledge, that's a bit different.
Yeah.
Information, maybe you need to reconsider, how your offer is working for your champagne clients.
Yep.
Is it aligning to what they need now? Like, with the addition of AI into information, is that working the best for your clients? And do you need to actually reposition it a bit? Maybe even,
Well, can we go over and above that? The economy is really, really different now than what it was a little while
yeah,
ago. People are buying for different reasons. Like if your offer isn't in the sweet spot for people that are actually buying. Like Alex Hormozy says, find a rich person's problem. Well, that's the only thing that's going to work right now. Find a rich person's problem. Because if you're trying to sell your offer to people that are not in a good economic position, like we're in a cost of living crisis, the whole world is, right?
yeah,
So don't get caught doing the same thing and wondering why people aren't buying. People are definitely still buying, but
yeah,
not in the same way. It is
yeah,
really, really important to
yeah,
pay attention to
yeah.
that.
I think what I'd say to people right now is take a breath and reflect and look back. And
Hmm.
what I'm going to say now is that if you look back at the way the economy has been over the last 30 plus years we've been in business, there's always ebbs and flows of
Yep.
different things happening at particular times. So, I mean, you think about 2008, for example, and
Yep.
then if you go back, there's cycles that happens, all right, that it goes through. But off every back of every one of these cycles where someone like where it's been, tragic for the world, where like losing dollars in the stock market, that kind of stuff, there's always been millionaires created.
Yep.
2008 was no different. All
Yep.
right. And at the moment, it looks like there's a bit of dip happening.
Yep.
I'm not a financial person, but it looks like there's a dip. But even if there is, there's still opportunity if you know how to adapt and reposition and pivot
Yep.
the right way
Yep.
to make money. So don't think it's 100% doom and gloom. Yeah, it's not
No,
great.
well,
Don't get me wrong, but
no, 100% more millionaires are created in economic downturns than any other time. That is 100% fact. And well, I say I, in my previous businesses, used those economic dips to my advantage. I often talk about the fact that we opened a retail store right in the middle of 18% interest rates in Australia. in a niche that was very, very flat, because it was in dancewear. We opened it in a mortgage belt. We opened that store in a place where there was two parents working, and every single cent was going to their mortgage. But I honestly believe that we wouldn't have been successful if we didn't have that as our learning place, I guess, as our foundation, because we had to learn so fast. We had to make really difficult decisions, and it meant that we were extremely successful coming off the bat. Would we have been that successful if business had have been easy? I don't believe so, not
Mm,
in the long term,
yeah.
because what we learned just it's still with me today. Like, I am so grateful for those learnings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so interesting, right? Like it's you kind of mind boggles a bit when you go, so there was a downturn, but all these millionaires were created.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah,
And
yeah, all the
yeah,
learning, the fast pivots, the thing that we were doing for the last, this many years isn't working the same. Like, yeah, you can
mm,
flip things really fast.
yeah, yeah. If you are someone that's listening and you're not in business for yourself and you may be still in corporate and you're thinking about leaving, but you're still there, you have a job. I remember reading this book called Who Moved My Cheese,
Mhm.
all right, or Who Moved the Cheese. I can't remember the book's called exactly, but the gist of it is that you still have to keep evolving. So no matter where you are, you need to keep evolving. So I just bring this up because the same way that you need to evolve your approach to business and your own business and your learning and your clients are moving forward. Even if you have a job, you still do the same thing because otherwise you'll be left behind. So in these times where things move fast, you need to move just as fast and evolve as well. So I think it's for everyone, for everyone
Absolutely.
listening.
Absolutely. Although we've seen the data. I would say 99.8% of the people that listen to this are in business. So,
Yeah,
but
they
this,
are actually in business. So,
yeah,
yeah.
it's exactly the same. The same principle applies. And I think where I want to finish this episode is that where we started this is talking about AI and how things are changing. And I want to finish it here again in saying AI can give you the answers, but experience tells you which answers to ignore, because there are things that AI will spit out and tell you to do that are just not right. So it's really, really the time to lean into your experience. You know, the old knowledge is power. It's not true anymore, right? It's the modern version of that, or the 2026 version of that, is applied knowledge is power, because the people that are going to win moving forward are the people that know what matters, what doesn't matter, what to do next, so that they can keep moving fast. So, yeah, anything that you want to add to that, Leon?
No, I love that saying though. Applied knowledge is power because my
Mm,
dad used to say me knowledge is power all the time. But in
mm,
this day and age, the way things are going, it makes way more sense. So the knowledge or the information, I should say, is becoming so readily available. But knowing what's usable, what's true or not, for example, and how to apply that knowledge is probably going to be the next biggest thing. So yeah.
totally. So here's where I'm going to land it. AI can give you the answers. Experience gives you the wisdom. And when you combine the two, you don't just move faster, you move smarter. So, right now, that's where we need to be. Like I said, we're going to talk about AI a lot more in episodes to come. But today, we wanted to talk about that experience. Like, it is so, so, so valuable. So, lean into it. And we're saying that from our own experience of not leaning into it, right, Leon?
Yep, exactly.
There you go. We got the data. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week on another episode of Business Growth Lab.
Ciao, ciao.